I don't really have anything to talk about today, I'm gonna be honest. But I just look really, really cute today. Sorry, everybody. So I have to say something. So I don't know. I guess maybe I'll talk about what it's like being 23 and 23 and me. That's the thing. Being 23 and like myself. Okay. Let me tell y'all about me. I have so many dreams, so many ideas. Like I'm just so full of like excitement for life and just all these different things I want to do and just like I have like massive amounts of plans. I want to be like should I move in silence? There's so many things I want to do. I want to do like something in like my field, like the field of psychology, like, something that's relevant. I have it all planned out, guys, but I want like a discovery one day. I feel like, yeah, that's my big thing. One day I want to discover something and I just want to add something to the world and just like expand it. And I also want to publish poetry, okay? I have written poetry ever since I was little. I'm like it's like a waste if I don't like publish poetry. You know? I don't know. I have so many plans and ideas. I have a lot of other plans and ideas that I like want to sort of like enact. And it's kind of like I don't know, but I feel like it's really hard for me sometimes because I get so like down in the dumps as like I feel like as someone who's just been through like a lot of like mental illness and just stress and all these things, like I get so down in the dumps sometimes. I'm just looking at my like there's no point in dreaming, there's no point in having like goals and ambitions. And like there's just yeah, I don't know, I just get so down and just feel like it's all for nothing. I think sometimes I start to feel like I'm just scrambling around and like everything just feels so uncertain sometimes. Like it just feels so like twisted and turned around. But I just start to feel kind of like what's happening. And I just start to get down on myself. Like I feel like I don't know how to put it. I just want to experience like everything. Like I have so many things that I just want to experience in my life. I want to travel to like a million different places. I have like a whole, like a massive bucket list of just places I want to see. I want to like I also just enjoy doing so many things. Like I just love um I love like reading, I love singing, I love playing instruments. I love like writing. I love drawing. I love like I just love everything. Like I feel like I have so many things I just love to do and I just want to do all of it and just like not all like professionally or anything like that, but I think I just want to expand and just do like everything. I have a million people that I want to like meet in my life. Like if I were like to manifest it, like I have so many people I'd love to meet. I'm praying that one day I meet Joni Mitchell. That's my big one that I've been thinking of recently. Like I really want to meet Joni Mitchell. One day I want to meet all my inspirations for like poetry and all these things. Like Sufjan Stevens, I feel like I get so inspired by music when I write. Like I feel like these people like I don't know, singers like okay, something that my mom said about Brazil, like she said that basically that she's like the reason that Brazil doesn't have as many famous poets like on an international scale is because all of their poets become singers. And that I think there's so much insanely beautiful Brazilian music, but also I do think that like I just like I feel like as a whole like there's so many poets. I'm like if you like well Joni Mitchell does she write poetry? I bet she does. Leonard Cohen, I know he wrote poetry as well, but I think there's so many singers that like if Sufjan Stevens wrote poetry, I'd read it. Like I feel like they're just like poets as well, and I just get so inspired as well by like music. I've been reading more poetry recently. Like I've been reading this. Oh my, where is it? I've been reading this. I first okay. I know everybody hypes up Rumi a lot for good reason, and the first time I ever read a poem by Rumi, not read, listened to, heard, was on this podcast called Poetry Unbound. It's like one of my favorite podcasts. Let me like casually turn my laptop. And I found this book at a charity shop, so I was like, let me read it. And it was just like, whoa, right from the get go. I think the thing that I like about poetry is that sometimes I feel so misunderstood. I don't know, classic poet experience, but I feel like my existence goes beyond like the normal plane of like humanity. Like that's why I said like in another video I feel so like ancient. Like I feel like Mesopotamian because I feel like my existence just feels like it surpasses like just anything normal and just into like this mystical place. I'm always in like a mystical mindset. Like I'm very often thinking about spirit, like the universe, be thinking about like there this one was really beautiful. Called where is it? Images of the Unseen. Should I read it? No, I'll probably waste space. It's a kind of a long poem, but um people should read it. But this was my favorite line. Um how wonderful. I but oh wait here. So here's a story. A thief was cutting a hole through the wall of a house at night. The owner was sick and groggy, but he heard the soft digging tap of the pick. He got up and climbed on the roof and hung his head over to look. What's going on down there? Why are you out in the middle of the night? Who are you? And then, I'm a drummer, my friend. How wonderful, but I don't hear any drum music. You will. Tomorrow you'll hear a song that goes, oh no, what has happened? Oh no, I've been robbed. This is how we sound when we talk about spiritual matters, saying moon and soul and spirit guide. What do we mean by these words? Sometimes I say the sun within the sun, inside the sun, and claim to be describing God. I'm talking in my sleep. I love that line. I sometimes I say the sun within the sun, inside the sun, and claim to be describing God. I'm talking in my sleep. And just yeah, I guess just the idea that we are like that like he's I love the line I'm talking in my sleep because I feel like it's this energy of just pulling from this like you're sort of sourcing from this place that you go where you don't there's so much going on but you don't really see it. Like it's just this subconscious like sort of place. And that's what I love about poetry, what I love about spirituality. And weirdly, like, I feel like it's like, why am I this kind of person and wanting to do sort of more like scientific things or going to like, I feel like psychology and poetry and spirituality and all these things go so well together for me personally because I feel like it's so much for me about, I love thinking about our subconscious mind and all of the ways that we sort of act without knowing why we're doing what we're doing. Like, it's just from this deeper place. And I feel like that's like big theme for me. Like, I love that. And I love that about poetry as well. Um, but I've just been reading this book and it's just been making me feel really understood. Again, a very like when are these written? I have like my genuine question. Does it say somewhere here? I know these are like old poems, but I feel like the way that Rumi talks about God is like how I feel and experience God. It was really weird because I was actually having like this sort of like prayer moment with myself and then I went to just like I randomly threw this book into my bag um like earlier before I went to work and then I just pulled it out and was trying to distract myself from my anxiety and the first poem that I read literally was like spot on to what I was thinking and it was about this person's relationship. It's called Nasu. I think that's how you pronounce it, but basically the story is about this guy who he basically has been like sort of sneaking into this bathhouse or not sneaking, he's been like working there but the other women don't know that he's a man because he's like very feminine and he feels very like bad that he's like there washing the women but he like can't help himself but he's like praying to God like please take my shame away sort of and this was the most beautiful line ever. So he goes to talk to like a holy man and says he has so completely dissolved his ego, nothing to himself, that what he says is like God talking to God. How could such a prayer not be granted? I was just like, wow, that really like struck me and that's just really beautiful to me and yeah, I just feel like the way that Rumi talks about God is like how I feel God. Like I feel like I'm a very spiritual person, but I feel like I just have such a like personal relationship to God and what God means to me. Apparently it's a very Brazilian thing. Like apparently a lot of Brazilians have like a gajillion religions. That's definitely my mom and my mom's family. I feel like literally everybody's a different religion. My mom's like Buddhist, but she also like she loves like going to see like like Candomblé and like all of these Umbanda, like she'll be there, like, but she's also Catholic, sort of. She's not really Catholic, but she went to Catholic church, and sometimes she still wears the rosary and prays to God. And this sort of random, like sort of relationship to religion that Brazilians have. And then I have like my grandma, of course, is like straight up Catholic. I have one aunt who's like just overall spiritual but loves Hinduism and like Buddhism and things. And then I have like another aunt who's like evangelical, but then is weirdly at the same time like likes like Hinduism and stuff. Like we went one time and she had us watch like this kids movie about like what's the name? Krishna. I don't know. I don't even know what's going on, but I'm vibing with it. I love like religion and spiritualities. And then my dad's Buddhist. My grandma on my dad's side is Southern Baptist, like, you know, my grandma, grandpa. So it's just all over the place for us, I think. And I think that's only just added to like, I think that I've just been like, you know what? I find truth in like everywhere. I just feel like I can't like, but the thing is that this is my thinking about it. Like, all of the religions and all of these things, they're all just like our human sort of understanding of like religion and you know what it means. Like we as humans are always creating categories for things, like categories. I think that's kind of actually what the poem sort of like is about. Like I feel like humans, we can try to sort of come up with these sorts of understandings of like the unseen, but like can we really ever really capture it? It says like one of the lines is it right to make images of how the unseen world works? Only the one who knows such things can do that. So, how can our bald heads explain here? I feel like we just always are trying to create these sorts of categories for the world and like how we experience the world. And it's like none of that is actually like real at all. Like I mean, yeah, the only reality that it has is like in how we experience it. So I can't ever like get behind being like I am this religion or that religion because it just feels like limiting myself to like a human category. And that doesn't mean I'm like disrespecting those religions on the inside. Like I don't like the elements of new age spirituality where they're just robbing and robbing from all of these traditions and just putting them in like weird sort of whitened packages. I don't vibe with that. I don't like the star seeds. I was thinking this other day, this is my problem with spiritual people who are like, I'm a star seed, I'm like an indigo child. And it's like, because they're like the highest of the high spiritual people who are just, you know, they're like, you know, yeah, they're special, they're different, they're sent from another planet to like enlighten people. And it's like, if you were really enlightened, you would know that that's all an illusion, isn't it? And like the whole point is that all of those categories and all of the ways that we could limit ourselves to like human language and human categories and things are like illusions as well. And you know, you're not actually a race or anything. Like if you were like, I feel like if those people were really like enlightened beings from another planet sent to enlighten people, they wouldn't have the sort of superiority complex that they have to think that they are like above others or that they're a special category. And they would know that we're all one. And I had this realization one time when this turned so spiritual. I had this realization one time when I was in a really sick place mentally, but I was just trying to crawl my way out of it. And we were actually in London, my dad and my sister and I, because we were going to move my sister into into university. But we took like a day or two to go to be in London, and we went to the British Museum. I keep saying the Met because I'm thinking New York. That's when I first was like, you know what? I feel like I'm a very ancient creature. And then I went outside because I was in such a poetic mood from I went to this like exhibit at the British Museum called like the Divine Feminine or something like that. And it was beautiful. It was like, I wish I had the money to get like the book of all of the images and things, but it was just absolutely beautiful about like goddesses and sacred, you know, sexuality and all these things. And it was just stunning. But anyways, and I was sitting there like, whoa, like just immersed. And then I went outside and I sat in the grass and I was just sitting there like glowing with all these interesting ideas. And I started looking around at all the people. And that's when I was sitting there being like, I think I'm extremely ancient and all these things, just having this little poetic sort of moment. And I looked at all these people and I was like, isn't it sad that like everybody isn't going to like reach enlightenment because some people are so stuck in their ways? But then that was like the moment for me that I looked at these people and I was like, it's not about them. Like, how do I put this? You are thinking that everybody's not going to reach enlightenment because of your ego. And like, you're sitting there and thinking, well, all these people are like sort of bad people, or not all of them, but some people are just so stuck in their ways and so, unenlightened, they're not going to do it. And I was like, that is pure ego speaking. That's not. And then I realized that everybody around me, this is going to sound intense, okay? Everybody around me was just a projection of me. And in me thinking like, and me being like, oh, like this person is like a bad person because they're causing all this pain. I'm feeling that way because I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling frustrated and I'm feeling upset at them, right? Like I'm only thinking that about them because of the reaction that they're causing in me. So in reality, all of that negativity, it's a little bit intense. I don't know if people will follow this. But the realization was so deep. It was like, that's all just me. And at the end of the day, all of that ego, all of that frustration, it's all just me, right? Like, it's all just my reaction to the world and my judgment of people. And nobody, there's so many times, there's so many moments that people can have of me that are just like, wow, that poor person who's just not gonna get there. Because I've had so many moments where I've been like reactive, frustrated, like sort of didn't act the way that I wanted to. And I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, but I'm gonna sort of reach this sort of spiritual place. And yet I'm looking at everybody else and thinking the same thing. And it's like, but then that's not even really the sort of realization that I had. It's so hard to put what I realized into words, but I was like, everything is just, the only person that has to reach that place is me. Because every time that I'm getting angry at people and every time that I'm having that sort of negativity towards people, like, it's me. Like, it's me who's angry. It's me who's frustrated. It's me who's judging them. It's me who's upset at them. Like, it's not them. And I think that that just gave me so much peace because I was like, the journey is not about indoctrinating other people. It's not about making them be good people or anything like that. And it's not even a thing of like an ego thing of, oh, I'm going to get there and all these poor, sad chumps are going to have to keep, you know, going and going and going and just keep trying. Which, I think I take that from of like, I don't even like, but well, I mean, that's the point, right? Like, that's the point of the journey, is that I think when you're reading about these concepts, you learn about it from level to level. And I think that when you're first interacting with the concept, like, your ego is like the one in control, right? Because our ego is always there. And sort of looking at it like this, like it's this race to be the best person, and the best person is going to be an enlightened person who's going to be find like their personal freedom. And it's not about that at all. Like, it's about, you are just like, we are all like this one soul, right? And every time that you're like angry and every time that you're in pain and frustrated at people and judging people, it's not because they are bad, it's because you're having the reaction. And that doesn't mean that there's people, and this is coming from me as a survivor as well, that doesn't mean that I can't look at people and just be like, I can objectively say like, you have committed a horrendous crime, or you have just the most difficult personality that is so hard for anybody to deal with. And that's why I think that I do, like, I feel like I grew up with two Buddhist parents. So that's why I do agree that I think that everybody is there to sort of teach us these sorts of lessons. And that's the way that we have to sort of handle people, to be like, they're doing us this favor. And I had this thought process when it came to um, the person who was violent towards me, because I had so much of a thought process. When I grew up, my parents were always teaching me to be compassionate. Compassion is so important. We should have compassion for everyone. And when you do meditations, like sort of like loving kindness meditations, you're taught to have compassion towards you, and then to have compassion towards people around you, then to have, you visualize compassion to your enemies, right? And I think when I was growing up, I didn't really have that much of an enemy, so I couldn't really sort of like, or people who made you upset, I didn't have it to that deep of a level. But when I got older, I did. And I think, but it was like, wow. It was like somebody that was like, I could never, like, this morally could, it's not just somebody who I'm like, wow, they're so misguided. It's somebody who's just genuinely committed something that's just so atrocious to me that I don't understand. And it wasn't because were raised, great, fine house. They had a boat. Like, they, lived a great, fine life. There's no reason why they should act like that. There's no, like, they weren't like, unless there's something I don't know, but I mean, they weren't like, like, they didn't have any kind of sort of like, there's some people that I think you can have compassion for. There's some people, it's like, they went through this horrendous thing when they were a child and they're just passing along the experience. And, but there was nothing that this person could have, like, to have done that, right? And unless there's some secret, I don't know if there is, I'd have compassion for that. But I think that, like, so I struggled with, like, how do I find compassion for this person? And I sat there and sat there. And one day, actually, my dad was driving me back up to school, and he was like, I asked him the question. I was like, Dad, like, we always talked about this. And, I asked him, like, how do you think I can find compassion for this person? And I think at first he really didn't know how to answer. He was like, you don't have to rush to have compassion for this person. But I think that, like, maybe a place to start is having, they say, like, to have compassion for, like, for example, their family or something like that. It's sad. And I think that I struggled because I never met this person's family at all, but I was, like, just thinking about, like, I imagine that they really probably enabled this sort of behavior from everything that I heard. And from from the things that I heard, it sounded like there's a little bit of enabling sort of situation going on. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I think that, like, I was like, that's an interesting place to start. And then, like, one day it actually did hit me as I thought about this. I was like, the way for me to have compassion for this person is to think that there's some people out there. And I think that in political culture right now, we have a lot of these characters. So it's a great exercise. I actually think that the way I approach this sort of administration is just that it's such an exercise in, like, so many of these sorts of sort of, like, deep spiritual challenge. I think we're all feeling really deeply spiritually challenged right now, but whatever your political affiliation is, I think it's just an intense time to sort of grapple with this. But I think that I was finally like, you know what? People who are actually, like, just do things out of, like, greed and just for themselves and all these things. I was like, think about how many deep emotions that I experienced going through this. I experienced so much deep pain, but I also experienced so much deep love. Like, I'm not the kind of person who, like, under normal, like, we can never say really 100% about ourselves because we're all mysterious to ourselves. But consciously, I would never do something that he did, right? And I think that I am just like, but I have experienced so much authentic love, so much authentic, like, I've experienced such a deep spiritual journey with this sort of trauma that I'm so grateful for, and that has deepened my relationships to the world so much. And I'm like, I feel sorry for people who cause the kind of pain that he caused, because people who are greedy, people who just take for their own sake, they actually, I think they don't have the kind of deep tenderness and compassion that people have. And sometimes when you're a deep, tender, compassionate person, that a lot of us are that way, very empathetic people, it's hard because you also feel so much pain. And I think that feels like a punishment, or it feels like, how are these people just living their, like, they can just go on and they can just keep having this amazing life and it doesn't really matter at all to them, and they're just going to keep being happy. But it's like, but they're never in a million years will this person experience the deep sort of love for the world that I have. Never will they experience the deep sense of purpose, this deep sense of compassion, the deep sort of, and those are the moments that have made my life feel so worth it. Those moments of authentic connection. Like, this person was not authentically connecting to me nor anyone around us. In fact, he was manipulating all of us, creating trouble in all of our lives, and the people that were around me in that time. Like, we were all feeling deeply troubled by this personality. And it's like, I think that I think that the way I was like, finally, that's when the compassion hit me. It's like, you're never going to experience the kind of deep, authentic love for the world that, like, we have. And, like, you're never going to experience that moment of, like, when you look at someone and you're just like, wow, I just love them. And it's like, you feel so connected and you feel like you just want to give to them and do good for them. And, like, in a platonic way, in a romantic way, whatever, that person will likely never experience that. And that made me feel so sad. And I was like, the kind of compassion that stops you and the empathy that stops you from doing that kind of thing, that kind of compassion, empathy, and, like, let's bring it to a spiritual, like, political scale, right? The kind of compassion and just, like, love that guides you to want to help the world, that guides you to want to, like, help children that are suffering and hurting and, give money to other people. That is so deep, and that is one of those beautiful parts of being alive. Now, there's billionaires and things out there who have never experienced that, ever. Like, they just take, and they're just greedy. And we don't actually know how much suffering and fear and anxiety and just pain that actually causes. Because think of it this way, when you don't have money and you're feeling like I just need more money, from experience, that is the most painful experience in the entire world. Now think of people that no matter how much money they have, it's like, having like a worm in your stomach. Like no matter how much money they have, they just need more. They just need to get more. Think of the suffering. We actually, like, I think we have it all twisted. I think if hell exists, I think it exists on earth. And I think that there's people out there really truly experiencing some hell states. And I think that that is a hell state, genuinely. Like it is a hell state to be in the energy of just feeling like there's a parasite in your stomach that's causing you to constantly need more, want more, cause more pain, like screw people over. The times that I have felt like I have like manipulated, all of us have done something like this, even if you were like, when you're a kid or something, like you felt like you did something sneaky, or like you manipulated someone, or you hurt somebody because you were just feeling angry. Those are the most painful moments of my life, even though it had that temporary satisfaction, but on the inside it felt like it hurt me. Like it caused that sort of pain of like because I was so in this state of suffering as I did it, right? It's like I was so angry, I was so bitter. And it's like there's people moving through the world that way and just taking and taking and taking, and they don't want to see good things happen to people. Like they don't want to see good people win. They want to see good people fail, and they want bad people like themselves to succeed. And I don't like to say good and bad people. I'm using this to create a sort of metaphor, but there are people out there who are truly dark characters. Like we hear about them in the news all the time, and these dark characters that have, I think they don't like to see starving children get fed. They don't like to see, poor people get money. They don't like it, and it causes them pain and suffering, and they feel upset. They don't like it. It's like, and that's so dark, right? And that's just a dark state. And I feel sad because some people have to live that for their whole entire life. That is their life, and they're gonna be like live up until they die. That's the emotions that they experienced for their entire lifetime. And think how much you lose feeling like that. Like think how much you lose by just feeling like you have this worm inside of you that's just constantly making you be greedy and be in pain. Like even though like they seem like they're doing great because they're like they have the money and they're out here, they're winning, they're succeeding, it's like it's not authentic, because they're actually in pain all the time. If not, they wouldn't be that way, because it's all that greed and that jealousy and that I need to have it and I need to be the one that everybody admires and I need power. Those are intense emotions. The times that I have felt that in my life, it has been intense for me, painful. I haven't wanted to be in that state for a long time, and there's people living in that for their whole entire lives. Okay, and I think that is the way that I was able to find compassion for the person who committed violence towards me, and the way that I have been able to find compassion for people like that. And the compassion is not because we need to fix them, we need to that's not what the compassion is about. We can have compassion for people in a way that strengthens us, and shows us the reality. Because I think people who are like that, they want you to feel like they have it all, they're winning, you're hopeless, you're gonna lose, you're not gonna have it, you're like gonna suck your whole life, and they're the ones who are doing great. I think the compassion can give us a sort of sliver of hope and sort of give us that sort of insight of what it actually means to be in that situation, so that we don't feel powerless and we don't feel like we're losing all the time because of the reality that they're finding themselves in. I'm telling you, for like, if somebody told me you can have $1 billion, or you can experience deep love and tenderness in your life towards people in in a heartbeat, I'm telling you, I'm experienced that deep love and tenderness. Because $1 billion can get you items or, people to sort of swoon over you. But that deep love and tenderness, that's something that your soul like carries with you, And I think like that is just like what I took away from like thinking about how to find compassion towards this violent person. Anyways, what this is how I have to do with poetry that I've been reading and wanting to meet Sufjan Stevens and wanting to meet Joni Mitchell and all these people. Well, I guess it came back to this book and how I think that like the universe, spirit, God, it just goes so far beyond like the words that we can put into it. I know everybody does not believe in God, or I think that a lot more people would connect with God, whatever, if they didn't feel like they had to conform to a certain, I think it's so good to have your own personal relationship to God. And that's what Sufjan Stevens' music is all about as well. I think Sufjan Stevens also has a really personal relationship to God and to Christ and to all of these things. And I think that um not every artist is a spiritual person, but I think a lot of artists are spiritual people exactly because you sometimes you just feel so like swayed over by like, you know, by just something so much bigger than what you like than you. Like I think it's so much you feel like you're just getting carried by something that you can't even see because sometimes you just make art and you look at it and you're like sometimes I'll paint or I'll write poetry. I'm like, whoa, like this isn't even I can't even believe I wrote this or like I can't even believe I did this. It feels so much bigger than me and then I'm sitting there and I'm like there's so much to unpack and I wasn't even I'm getting hot. I wasn't even trying to like I wasn't even like thinking about all of these elements when I wrote it. Like it just naturally flowed out of me. And I think it just really connects you to this idea that there's something so much bigger than you. You know, and I don't experience God as like a person, like a big man in the sky. I think I did not believe in God when I thought that that's what God was supposed to be. I started to believe in God when I saw God as something much bigger than that. And God also is us. You know, I think every religion, this is me, this is coming straight from my undergraduate thesis, but a lot of religions have also, I think most religions have the concept that God sort of exists outside of us, but also inside of us and is also like moving inside and out of us at the same time. Like, you know, it's and that we have a piece of God inside of us. And I think that that's even what this poem was saying, right? Um that the spiritual man was so completely dissolved, his ego nothing to himself, that what he says is like God talking to God. And I think that one just really struck me. I was like, yeah, I think that there's something about starting to release to like, you know, that the world is bigger than what we can control and what we can understand, that you just start to feel so connected to the idea of God. And if you're atheist, this doesn't resonate for you. That's okay too. I don't think that everybody has to connect, but I think that God is something just bigger than I think a lot of people have problems with Christianity, and that's fair because Christianity has been used in difficult ways, and a lot of times I am not like I don't go to church on Sundays per se, but when I do go to church, I like it. I was raised going to church, and I think Christianity, there's so much beauty in it. I love Jesus. Sorry, like I love Jesus, and I think the story of Jesus Christ is also beautiful. I love the imagery, and I think there's a lot of so much beauty in religion as well. There's things that I don't like, but this is my thinking is that I think that um we're human, so when we translate God, like we're always going to like a good another comparative literature idea, but I think that it's so impossible to get a good translation like ever. Like when you every time you translate, I think by nature, like from language to language, there's something that you're going to lose in the translation. Like you're going to lose some element of the spirit of what you're speaking about, and it's going to be sort of start to take on your spirit. And I think that as humans, I think we all know that we are, you know, when people wrote like the Bible or things, it's a translation of spirit of God or whatever, and that means that elements of God are gonna get lost, I think, and some elements of God are gonna go missing, and there's gonna be some human things that people sort of incorporate into their words that I think aren't gonna actually be the essence of God. That's my personal opinion. I don't believe that God should ever be used for homophobia or you know anything like that. God is supposed to be love and just everything. And I was like if God is beyond humans, I don't think that God would constrict us to categories that are made by humans as well. Like I think that God is so far beyond any of that. I don't know. That's just my like personal relationship to God, and it's satisfying to me. I think I've never felt so satisfied in my life as when I just feel connected to I use every word, God, spirit, everything. I think it's just beautiful, and the unseen, the subconscious mind. I almost think I think coming from a more scientific perspective, I think that our subconscious mind and God, I don't know if God is in our subconscious mind, if God is our subconscious mind, or if that's how God speaks to us, but I think there's definitely a connection there in the fact that sometimes we do things. The more I've connected to God, the more I found myself doing things that I'm like, I never really like it just hits me. Like it just the inspiration just strikes and then I just do it and it's like that's it ends up being the perfect thing. I wasn't even expecting to do it in the first place and it just happened to be the perfect thing, you know, or just got me right where I needed to go. And so and you know, it's that sort of gut feeling that you start to get, I think, as you start to connect to your spirit. That's why I like the word spirit because I think it brings it back to me as well. And like, you know, my spirit and like the like, you know, not in the sense of like me I don't know, it's kind of complicated because I think God goes beyond the individual, but I think just I don't know, like I just think that there's like some essence of like it is like my spirit, but also my spirit is connected to every spirit because I'm just connected to everything. As just one last little like addition, I think that I feel God in like like the design of the world. You know, I think that the world is so intricately designed in such a beautiful way. And okay, not the design of like, even though like it is beautiful to see like the fractals and flowers and snowflakes and everything, I think that's beautiful too. I understand the okay, I understand the science behind it. I understand why it happens, but I just think it's beautiful that how can it be that like just the world just popped up and it's like this art piece? Like what? That's crazy. I think that's why artists feel so connected to God. It's like the world is like this insane art piece of like with all these little like details and flower petals and it's like beautiful and intricate and it's like whoa, you know? But I think that also I think that the where I see God so much is in like you know when bees all fly together and they all create like this clump and they just are this like hive mind literally and like or like birds and they're all this hive mind. And I think that like it's so beautiful how we are like they are feel that sort of collective connection. Like they don't speak to each other. They're not texting on their phones about it. They just feel it like it's something beyond them, right? And it's just natural. And I feel like humans, I think that we have a little bit of a power struggle with the unseen. We want to control and you know that's our sort of creator element that we have within ourselves, not piece of God of we also want to control and we also want to create. But I think that also like sometimes I think we lose that animals I think have or I think we're doing it all the time intuitively anyways, but I think that we're not so aware of it. Like animals like they sort of run in these packs without even talking to each other, planning it, they just do it, right? And I feel like sometimes like it's good to connect to that. I think when we are connecting to God, I think that that's what we're connecting to. Like as humans, like that sort of like it's like we just have this sort of natural sort of like oneness that it's like you can see it in animals and we're animals as well. We have it too, but we're not always so aware of it. And I think the ways that we sort of execute it are more complicated. Like, you know, we have these sorts of like, I don't know, these sorts of more mental sort of ways of like executing these sorts of collective connection sort of things, you know? And I think that it's hard in a moment like this. I think this is a really hard moment spiritually for the world because I think we are so divided. I think it's really hard to get that sort of like hive mind of like we're all working into this like thing and it's like a thing that's happening. Like I think it's like I don't think that anybody feels like I think it just feels so like everybody's so disconnected and just sort of like what do we even do and that's a tactic. That is a political tactic that people, you know, I think the people in the higher ups are employing, you know, to keep, you know, don't keep everybody of the working class to know that they're all part of the working class and, you know, the right and the left, it's this thing, you're fighting each other. It's like, why are we fighting each other when we could be fighting them? And all of us are getting hurt by them and all of the problems that we are having of poverty and all these things, we're like looking to them to like, you know, like fix it. And it's like, they're the ones also like, not okay, politicians have also helped, but it's like at the same time, like they're causing a lot, the people right now are causing a lot of the issues. So it's like, why are we fighting each other? And it's a tactic, right? Right, left, Trump, like Kamala, like just everybody fight each other and like fight each other as people. And it's like, it's causing us to sort of like, we could all have this sort of collective connect. I'm making it too political now. It doesn't need to be, but that's my thinking. I think that's why like we're just having such an intense spiritual moment as a collective. I think like when I saw Trump being elected, I was like, I have to surrender and just know that this is also a spiritual moment and that I can't control other people's reactions, but I can control mine and I can turn it into spiritual strength and learn. I think we are all learning as a collective a lot of lessons right now that I wish we could work on together. I wish we could all communicate on them together. And I think intuitively we do. I think that's the whole point is that it's not about speaking, but having these sort of intuitive moments and movements that sort of just erupt as we sort of connect to ourselves. And that's why I think it's really important to connect to ourselves in the midst of this, you know. But that's just my opinion.